Hello and good afternoon. My name is Christopher H. Wright, and I'm the Chief of Probation for Riverside County Probation. And it is truly an honor and a pleasure to be here on stage today. I must admit, I'm nervous. Secondly, I must admit I'm not Oprah, Dr. Phil, and I wasn't meant to be on The View. So bear with me here, and we're gonna get through this because today it is truly an honor to have three special people here on stage. And everybody in the state of California, when you become a probation officer, you're looking for to help and assist and to build up your communities and help others. And you come across special stories every once in a while. You come across special people every once in a while, and more often than not, sometimes we really do a good job of rehabilitation and reentry and getting people back into the community. Well, the two special people in particular, and then I'm going to introduce the third and explain why they connect together, who are here today. Tony Martinez and his daughter, Reese Martinez, is going to tell a special story. It's going to tell a story of triumph. It's going to tell a story of failing. It's going to tell a story from A to Z. You will kind of understand what it takes when you're going through the rehabilitation process. And then also we have his probation officer at the time, Lisa Patronis, and her story is she never gave up. She never gave up. She always gave sound advice. And from what Tony is going to tell us today, she's the reason that he's here today. So with these unique stories, we don't join probation to become rich monetarily. Nobody does. It never happens. But I tell you what, we're rich at heart, we're rich at soul, and we're rich in our spirits because of the great work that we do. We're able to help people and change our communities and change people's lives. Also, for me, I believe it's a calling. And a lot of times we don't mention where that calling comes from, and if you're a believer or somebody of faith, which I am, I believe it was a calling for me from God, and I believe that to this day. And I continue, 29 years into it, every day I get up excited about the work that we do and the people that we help and the people that we can serve. But I could go on and on and on, and I probably will a little bit later. So I'm gonna, without further ado, introduce you all to Tony Martinez and his daughter Reese. Thank you, Tony, for being here today, and we appreciate you taking the time to share your experiences. Our goal is to talk about the rehabilitative journey, and we talked a little bit about this before. But before we get started, Tony, I want you to just kind of talk about it from the beginning, where it all started, and how you moved through the whole procedure of being on probation, and how you eventually overcame it, and who played a role in that piece. So, Tony, you have the floor.
Thank you. My name is Tony Martinez. I'm a grateful, recovering alcoholic addict. My sobriety date is 12/16/2019. That's 4 years, 6 months, and 9 days. That God gets all the glory and credit for that. Well, if it starts out where my story's a little bit different. I think that I came from a great childhood. I had the best parents, best brothers, sister, but I was that child. I was that child that had the addict, alcoholic, criminal behavior. I was cheating, stealing, lying ever since I was little. So when I got to high school, I started using drugs and alcohol. I would say all through high school, and then I met Amber, which is Reese's mother, and then finally, I was 20 years old when we found out, when she was born. And I'd made a decision then that I was not going to use drugs or alcohol, and that went well for 2 years until me and her mother, we broke up, and then you got to understand, I always wanted to be a father. So that was one of the hardest times in my life because I knew everything was going to change because my mom and dad always been together, and now my dad was my hero, and I wanted to do the same thing with my daughter. And when I realized that that was not going to be no more, I should have realized it then that, hey, I'm lucky I still could be your father, but I didn't. It was just devastation for me. Then I started doing drugs again and alcohol. And then I met my son's mother. And 6 months down, well, after we had my son, same thing happened. And I felt like a failure. Here I am going again, gonna have visitation. And I just thought, I gave up then. And I started using more and more. And that's when I started getting arrested, coming in and out of jail. And it just went downhill. In 2017, my parents finally had enough. They said they got a restraining order, and I became homeless. And at the time, I was really mad. I was like, why me? You know, it upsetted me, you know. Now I understand why. You know, it was all me. I was bringing trouble to the house. I was, you know, thank God they did, because I probably would have died in that room using drugs. And in 2017, in May, I got arrested again, and I was in jail for 5 months, and came out in September, and that's where I got officer patrons in my life. You got to understand, I had probation officers before. And at that time, I'm not saying how you guys do it now, but at that time, they treated me like a number. I was no one, and I didn't trust you guys at all. So when Officer Patronis came in my life and was my probation officer, she had a different approach. But I didn't trust her. Did not trust her. I didn't understand her because she cared. She was trying to get in here. And she was trying to help me, and I was like, didn't trust her. Even though every time I went in there, she would tell me something like, for instance, don't you want your mom and dad to see you clean and sober before they go? That would hit me. I was like, oh, dang, dude. But I'll leave, and I'm like, okay. And then I'll come back my next visit. Don't you want your daughter to walk you down the aisle? And I was like, oh, man, this girl's hitting me. But then I always thought, okay, she has something up, you know. She's just going to put me in jail eventually, right? Not the case. Not the case at all. And she kept on digging, and then she got the relationship with my daughter. I was like, now what is she up to? What is she? I was like, this is getting crazy, but still, but you gotta understand, every time I would visit her, she was knocking that wall I had against you guys. So there was a little trust here and there, and then, you know, so I'll go here. My last time I got arrested, I found out that my daughter called her up and told her, hey, you got to do something or my dad's going to be dead. And it took a while, but, you know, I remember one time I was homeless, right? And I was in a tree, you know, I looked up to God and I said, please take me. I was done. Let me back up 1 month. 1 month prior, my daughter found me laid out, and she picked me up with her boyfriend, Vincent, and they took me to the hospital, and I found out I was overdosing off of fentanyl that was laced in the meth that I was using. Because I didn't take fentanyl, but they saved my life, but I still went out when they took me home, and I still did the same thing. But like I said, a month later, I cried out to God and said, God, take me. I'm done. I can't do this no more. And at that time, I didn't want to live no more. Not like take me to, you know, help me. No, I did not want to live no more. Please take me. 2 days later, I got stopped by Riverside PD, and they said, oh, you got a warrant out. And I knew right away. I was like, okay. Not happy still, because still going to jail, and then so when I got to court, they offered me 4 years in prison or the Salvation Army. And I took the Salvation Army. Says this is something that Officer Patronis was trying to do. Hey, why don't you go to a program? But she knew at that time that I had to be ready, and I was not ready at those times. things had to happen in my life before I got to that point. And I got to that point. So I chose Salvation Army in Anaheim. And now I just want to say, I think it's so awesome that I went to Salvation Army, that what changed my life in Anaheim, and now I'm here speaking in Anaheim. With a whole bunch of probation officers. Is that crazy? But you guys got to understand, I love you guys. You don't understand. It's a different relationship with me and you guys now. I'll do anything for you guys. But so I chose Salvation Army, where I was told that, beforehand by the public defender that I think you should choose prison because you can't follow no rules. And I looked at her and I said, okay. I was done at that point. So I said, I'll show you. She said, because you know what? They got a lot of rules and you're going to get kicked out of the program and go to prison anyways. I said, I'll show you. Well, I went to Salvation Army and I graduated that program without one write-up. Because I knew at that time I had a sick mind. It was dirty, and I knew when I went in that program, I had to do whatever it takes. I was going to follow every single rule in that program, because if I didn't, how am I going to follow rules out here if I didn't follow rules in there? So I got the sponsor. I worked the steps. I worked on myself. Finally in my life, I worked on the issues I had created in my life with the resentments I had on myself. And the beautiful thing about it, when I got there and I turned my life to God, He took the obsession away from me of using drugs and alcohol, which to this day, and which I hear from other people that they think it's a miracle, because I haven't had any want to do drugs ever again. So after I graduated Salvation Army, I turned to Officer Patronis, needing her again, calling her up because there were some rules in there that we didn't know about. So I had called her. I said, "Hey, I need help. I need to get in the sober living." And there she was again. Did her work, and then right after I got out, went to sober living. And she just went above and beyond. And by then, my life has changed, right? So she was my family. She was everything to me, because who does it? Maybe you guys do, but at the time, I didn't have that trust with you guys, I was like, I had bad experiences, but not with her. And then she handed me off to other probation officers were just as wonderful. So my experience with Riverside County is I love you guys. And I'm willing to do anything for Riverside County Probation. You're asking for too much if you ask me again. But no, just play. But let me get back to where when I got out of Salvation Army. So I went home, and I found out 2 months after I was out that my mom had cancer. For a person who's young in their recovery, that was a hard pill to swallow. I shouldn't say pill, because that's not good, huh? That was a hard thing to swallow, okay? But you got to understand, in recovery, in my relationship with God, first and foremost, my relationship with God. And then by working my steps with my sponsor, I was able to deal with that. Less than a year later, sorry, I get emotional about it, still to this day, but I lost my mom. People are wondering, what's going to do? Well, nothing. I'm going to keep on living. I went to work the very next day my mom passed away, because I know that's what she wanted. I remember telling my mom when she was sick, and I told her, I said, Mom, and first she told me, you know what, I know you're different. I'm not worried about you anymore. And I said, Mom, you shouldn't worry about me anymore. And I told her, I promise you, Mom, if anything happens, I promise you, next time I see you, I'm going to let you know I did it. I hold that hard. No matter how life gets and how hard life can get, there's nothing going to ever make me look the wrong way. I'm on a path that you can't, that no one can stop me. And that's why when I was told to do this, I was like, yeah, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. I want to speak to people. I want to help people. Let people know I'm a human being that had problems, that made wrong decisions, that had a beautiful family. You might have seen a homeless person out there doing wrong things, but I'm a human being. And Officer Patronus treated me like a human being.
Yes, she did.
And it meant the world to me. I get emotional about this because this is my life. I'm a living person standing right here, or sitting down right now, but because what she did, she's taught me so much. And well, I'm stuck right now, but sorry, but it means the world to me. But so I'll go back. So when my mom passed away, I just kept on moving, and then at one point, I think I called my daughter up, and I think I paid all my fines of restitution. That's something, dude. But listen, I had 4 cases out on me, man. That's a lot of money to pay back. But I was doing it, and I was paying taxes. At one point, I said, I'm a productive person of society now. Isn't that amazing? Because when I was homeless, I used to look at you guys and say, oh, that's what I want. Why can't I be that person? I was stuck and saying, oh, this is what life is giving me, and so this is what's going to happen. Yeah, that's a really crappy way to think, huh? When I looked at you with your families going to get something to eat because I was hungry, well, why can't that be me? I guess this is what it is. But I don't say that no more. Now I take my kids out to eat. Every weekend I take my daughter, my son-in-law, and my son. You know how good that feels? I bet you guys do because you guys do it all the time, I'm sorry, but somebody like me who didn't do it, didn't have responsibilities, but now I have responsibilities. Now I have a great job at Old Castle in Fontana. I mean, they took a chance on me. Thank God, because my job before didn't. They saw my record and said, oh, after a year of working there, they said, oh, we got to let you go because, your record. But this company took a chance on me. And it's because of the work I did after my program. So thanks to Officer Patronus, Riverside County, I get to live a great life right now. And I just hope all of you will give those people a chance. We are human beings that maybe didn't believe in themselves. Well, I didn't at all. It took Officer Patronus to believe in me, which I didn't understand still, but yeah, I hated myself. I didn't believe in myself. But it took a stranger to believe in me and care about me. And I just like to thank her so much. She deserves, to me, I think she deserves a Probation Officer of the Year of United States of America.
Not to interrupt, but I think she did get it, I think. I'm not sure.
Well, I don't think so because I wasn't there, so.
You would. Woo.
I should have been giving her the award.
You should have. Duly noted. Duly noted. Duly noted. Well,
I'll
well,
write that down, too.
well, thank you for sharing, Tony. Such a powerful and passionate story. I mean, I know it's something that you say you would like to do. You do it well. You do it well, and you tell a really compelling story, and we'd love to bring you back at any point in any time. But as I was listening to you, I was watching your daughter. I was actually looking at Reese and seeing some of her emotions and different things like that. So I'm going to ask Reese to talk about the impact it had on her throughout this process, and how are they doing today?
Hello, everyone. I would say from a very young age, elementary school is when I remember my dad getting arrested for the first time. I was actually there. And a lot of people would assume that it would embarrass me or I'd be ashamed of it. Oh, but I told everyone at school. I didn't care what he did. He could be the President of the United States or he could be in jail, and that's my dad. And he's my best friend, and I didn't care what he did, and I was going to stand by his side. When 2017 hit, I was a freshman in college full-time, and I also worked part-time. And then I became a full-time caregiver to my dad, who was homeless on the streets. My mom and I would go 2 to 3 times a week and search for him, because even though we would get him phones, multiple phones, he would lose them, break them, forget to charge it. And
Sorry.
yeah. So the search would begin, and we would comb the streets, go to any houses that we think he would be at, and it was taxing, draining, but it was going to happen. A year in, I met my partner, Vincent, and that's a lot in a new relationship. Sorry, but you're going to be searching for my dad with me now. Congratulations. So it became my mom, Vincent, and I, and we would take turns, we would take shifts. I never missed a single court date. I would like that noted, ever. I visited him in jail on my birthday, I think 2 years in a row. I visited him on his birthday as well, because we are exactly 1 week apart. And I even made T-shirts for the jail for when I would visit him to make him happy, because that's what a daughter does for her dad. I spent countless hours, time, brain power, money, to try to make sure that my dad was going to be okay. And a lot of you would say that would be a lot for I was 18, I believe, when he became homeless, to handle, but to me it was just my job. And I would do it over and over and over and over again for my dad. And then I met Officer Patronus, and I trusted her, shockingly, because we did have another, the first probation officer I had ever met, he was out of Corona, and I did not like him very much. I hate to say it. But he treated my dad like a case number, and I saw it firsthand, like a number. You're going to go back to jail. What do you want to do? And there was no rapport being built there. And then I got to see my dad and Officer Patronus interact in person, and I was like, oh, okay, she's different. And so after, I believe it was 2.5 years of watching my dad and taking care of him, I started to build a relationship with her. My dad touched on it a little bit, but Vincent and I did find him overdosing. We hadn't heard from him in 24 hours, which was not rare. It happened often. But I had a feeling. Just something was not right. I could feel it in my gut. And we drove out there and stopped at all the stops that we could find him, and finally found a house that he was at. And they're like, oh, yeah, he's not feeling well. He can't come out. And I was like, yeah, he's going to come out. You're going to go and get him for me. And we put him in our back seat, and he said, oh, I think I'm sick. And I was like, no, you're definitely not sick. He wanted water, so we went to the gas station, got him water. I swear he drank that whole thing, but we turned around and there was not one sip taken out of it. But we heard him drinking it. Took him to the emergency room, and
I was dying.
sorry. Took him to the emergency room, and sure enough, his meth was laced with fentanyl, and that was the scariest day of my entire life. the thought of living a single day on earth without my dad is, I can't even think about it. Now I don't have to. And so the next morning I called Officer Petronas for the second time, I think. I think it's the second time I called her and said, okay, this is enough. We can't do it anymore. I called her in August and said, I think he really needs a program. I'm tired. I'm not giving up, but I'm tired. And then in that November, I called her again and I said, lock him up as fast as you possibly can. Please send him to rehab. He needs it. And in December, she did. And as soon as I found out he was arrested, I called her and I said, did you do this? She goes, yes. And I said, okay, thank God. We visited him once a week in Salvation Army until COVID hit. We couldn't. Visited him, wrote him letters, talked on the phone every day, and got out. We drove him to his sober living, and every single day of my life after that has been speaking to my dad, talking to my dad, spending time with Dad, confiding in Dad, making plans for the future, updating Officer Petronas, whether she likes it or not, on everything that we do. And I just, being able to go to these family dinners with my dad and my brother and my partner and just looking at him, just looking at his face and knowing I didn't think he would be here for this. I think I've said that a few times when we do things, and I'm like, well, I can't believe he's here. Thinking about my wedding one day, hopefully soon. And all the pressure.
And the man is back there.
Standing in the back. And knowing that I would, I always knew my mother would be at my wedding and my stepfather, I knew he would be there. But my dad, I simply just didn't think it was going to happen. No offense. And now I get it. Every girl's dream, I get it. And I can't wait. I already told Officer Petronas, I don't know if she's allowed to go, but you're going to get an invite. You have to see it. You're the reason why he's going to walk me down the aisle. He's going to be there for my kids. And if you can't tell, my dad is my entire world. Everything to me from the moment I was born. I would do anything for him. I have done everything for him. And it's an honor to be here, sitting next to the most amazing man I've ever known. And earlier, he was talking about his dad was his hero, and he was worried he couldn't be that for me, but he is the best example, my hero, every day, even when he was homeless and on drugs and making me go to court. He was still my hero because I saw the potential in him. I knew who he could be. And my mom saw the potential in him. My grandma saw the potential in him before she passed away, my grandpa. And that makes sense because we're his family. But Officer Petronas didn't need to see the potential in him. She could have treated him like a case number. She could have, but she didn't. And no matter how much I did for my dad or will do for my dad, I will always say the reason he is sitting here today is because of her.
Yes.
Two plates, permission granted for Officer Petronas to attend your wedding. We're just telling you soon. And secondly, what advice would you give to a family going through something similar with their dad or their parent, anything?
I would say do what you need to do because I know it's not easy. And there were times where we just did not know what to do. We had tried everything. But the number one piece of advice I would give to families, and I'd also give to all of you, is to never give up. Think about the hardest person you've ever had to work with or the person in your family that's struggling, and just don't give up, please. I'm begging you because you'll never understand what kind of life they can live and the potential they have until they get there. He wasn't ready for a long time, and I had friends, family, okay, Reese, this is
It's taking up too much of your life. Why don't you just give up? He's a grown man. If he wants to, he will. No, wasn't going to happen. Don't give up, please. It's going to be hard, and it might take years, but it'll be the most rewarding thing you ever do in your life, is to stand by your loved one and then to watch them blossom and grow and have the most amazing life that I could have ever wished. So that would be the number one. Please do not give up.
And I'm going to go back to you, Tony. You talked earlier about Officer Cronez, and when you obviously came to some point where you're going to trust her. Why was that compared to you had plenty of probation officers that, even your daughter talked about the one before, you talked about the one before, who no longer works for us, that is. What made you trust in her?
You gotta understand, every time I went in there, she would say something to me. She would tell me, don't you want to be around? Don't you want your parents to see you get clean and sober before they go? Or walk her down the aisle. And, you know, those things hit, and like I said, she said what she said, and she did it. She was honest with me, and she built that trust with me. You know, a lot of times, I would say, other probation officers, back then, I don't know, you probably changed it by now, it was just, yes sir, no sir, okay, you know, you're going to jail. You messed up, oh, you're going to jail. And Officer Charles, she didn't do that. She wanted to get inside of here. She treated, like I said, she treated me like a human being. And a lot of times I didn't get treated like a human being. At that time, remember, I was homeless. So you can imagine what sometimes homeless people get treated like. Sad, but we get treated like garbage. And even though she knew I was homeless, she didn't treat me like that. She cared about me. And it took some time, but she knocked that wall. So I say, you know, don't give up. Get to know your probationers. Treat them like a human being. You gotta understand who I was. My people, we don't trust you guys. I'm not that person no more, so I do trust you guys. But the people I was hanging around with, you know what I'm talking about, the criminals, we don't trust you guys. Because you do treat us, not you guys, but I mean, did we get treated like numbers and criminals, and we're no one, and we're no good of society, right? And you guys have to babysit us or put us in jail, right? She didn't do that. She wanted to help me. She wanted to make me a better person, and she did. So it took, I mean, she had to break down the wall and get to know me, treat me like a human being, and that's what she did, and saved my life.
All right, is there anything else that you guys would like to share with the audience that you have before you today? Any other thing that's said on your journey?
Officer Martinez for president.
And I'll say this, her eval is coming up. We're definitely making a pretty strong case for Travis. Now, in all seriousness, Lisa has always been a passionate type of person, and she's not speaking today, and I wish she was, because she does have a true story to tell, so, but I don't want to put her on the spot. But she's had some, not only things in her own life and things that have motivated her, kept her going, but she is outstanding. And one day, maybe next year, we'll have her share her story, because there is a piece of that that shows you the passion and why she does what she does every day, and she breaks the code. But I'm going to speak directly to you guys also as an industry, and it's just my feelings on us and being probation officers. For years, people don't know what we do. Well, I say to that, it's time for that to end. It's time for us to tell these stories. It's time for us to continue to meet to meet our clients and treat them like human beings. And when we rehabilitate and we help them re-enter society, we can't be afraid of telling that story. We can't be afraid of talking about it. We really need to be out front with the hard work and dedication and the things that we do. Because for me, and I still say this again, I'm gonna go back to me, I see this as a passion and a calling. And when we do those, we have the Tonys come into our life and come into our world. Tony's part of our family. He's Riverside County Probation family. And that will change, that will not change. That will continue throughout the time. We're gonna invite him back because he is part of that journey and that story. We also have to remove barriers for the people that we're working with. We also have to make it easier for them to kind of navigate some of these tough times. And we hold people accountable. There's no doubt there's a piece of that. But when you're dealing with that, you have to show you care. You have to do that extra step. You have to show an officer Patronus is doing. I'm going to speak real quick about something that's going on in Riverside County. It's like a little plug for us right now. We're in a project called Integrated Service Delivery. About a year ago, the county decided to go into this project, and I'm going to be honest, when I first got invited, I said, what am I doing here? There I am, trying to become the chief. I was assistant chief at the time. The thing that, you know, there's nothing with social service agencies in here. There's DPSS, public service, behavioral health, nothing to do with probation. We just follow the court orders. We make sure people hold people accountable. And I ended up learning a lesson myself after 28 years. You learn something. It really totally related to us. There's a score that's being taken from each client that walks into our offices called Whole Person Health Score. In that score, we analyze what the needs of Tony. I know. You know, what's the number one thing that Tony must take care of? Because if he has stage 4 cancer, you know, these other things may not matter as much. So when we started getting involved in that project, we started off doing a pilot project, and right now in our daily reporting center. So we already probably had 5 of those agencies anyway. And what that means is Tony comes through, we assess, we evaluate, we talk to Tony about what's the best way to help get you the services that you need. And those appointments and those things are made right then and there. You're not able to, that navigator walks you through, they help you through now. It's not begging people in my mind, it's making people understand that these services are available. And, you know, sometimes there's language barriers, there's all kinds of barriers for people not understanding how to get down the street to a child services so they can pay the child support. But we're eliminating that. We're bringing people together, trying to make a healthy Riverside. And I think this project is going to take off. I think it's something that the future of probation is going to be a kind of a collaborative and an integrated system. Now, obviously, if you live in a rural county, it's very difficult to do because the services might be 150 miles away. But whatever services that you have, and the things that you have in your current communities, make sure they're coordinated, making sure they're connected, there's connectivity. So when our clients come in our office, that's what successful reentry will look like for them. We got to eliminate some of that I can't do it, you know, and it would not often do we find the Reeses of the world that have that support for their dad and people like that. Sometimes we get the opposite. And so we have to play that role. We have to step into that place. But back to Tony and his story, and I'm gonna get back to it. Thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing. And Reese, thank you for just being supportive to your dad and to your boyfriend and your partner. Good luck on the way, because I know it's coming. And it's just truly been a pleasure to be up here with you guys, hearing your story, and not that late.